sorry to have that at the last moment.
Welcome to this afternoon session on the topic Serenity. My name is Al, and I'm a recovering lustaholic. In the spirit of the fifth tradition, to carry the message, this session will be recorded. The recorder will not be turned off during this session. So, if you wish to be recorded, you may participate by listening or attend another session. We ask that those who choose to share step up. Come sit up here, please. Either stand or sit. Let's say sit. Easier for you. And then know that you'll be recorded. Speak into the microphone. Please do not tamper with the recording equipment. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Will you please join me in the opening of the session with a Serenity prayer? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not my will, be done. Sexaholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop lusting and become sexually sober. There are no dues or fees for SA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. SA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to or engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sexually sober and help others to achieve sexual sobriety. Again, my name is Al, a recovering lustaholic. The topic is Serenity. I'll speak a bit and then open the mic. I'll stand, it's easier to see. And then we'll just see how this works. If it's better to sit, sit, or stand, stand. Serenity. It's very interesting. I was asked a month or so ago if I would lead this. So I said, sure. And then I've been pondering the word serenity. Since then. I spoke with my sponsor this morning and asked him, I'll make up a name, Joe, what does serenity mean to you? And he told me. I spoke with my sponsee, one of my sponsees this afternoon. I'll make up a name, Joe. What does serenity mean to you? And he told me. I asked a fellow Westchester County, New York member right now, what does serenity mean to you? And he told me. So these few thoughts are not my own. But I think that's the way it really works. That is to say, my thoughts about anything, including my own name, are not my own. We're in this together, but I mean really together. Vegetable soup in my head together. Serenity. You might just ask yourself what serenity means to you physiologically, behaviorally. What is it? And it changes over time. By God's grace, I have 17 years sobriety, one day at a time. For me, serenity is a soft smile. And when I have that soft smile, then I know serenity. And when I don't, that is when I'm going around with a frown or some other physiological stressor, then I know that. So for me, serenity is not either or, black or white. Al, do you have serenity right now? Yes. Woo. No. Oh. Rather, the question is, at this moment, how much serenity do you have, Al? Because it's always on a continuum. I'm never perfectly serene, and I'm never perfectly without serenity. That's like the first little thing I'd say. The second is that serenity is a gift, and it's hard for me to get that straight. So we just prayed in our opening prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. It's not like, oh my, I am accepting the things I cannot change, so I'm getting serene. No. There's nothing I can do, including accepting that which I cannot change, and arrive at serenity. Why? Because it's a gift. That's what we just prayed. Please give me the gift of serenity. It's not up to me to get. It's up to you to give. And if you don't give it, I don't have it. So the best we can do is open ourselves to having God do for us what we can't do in this and every other regard. It also seems to me that serenity, how do I say? Sometimes it's hard to get words. It's not a problem that I fix, get serenity. Rather, it's a process. My sponsee said to me today, it's a process, a movement, not a static point, that it's a movement into ourselves to that which is already written within us. So serenity is this movement. It's also for me, and it's really important for me to be standing here now because I'm learning as I speak. Serenity, to my surprise, is not a feeling. I often equate serenity with am I feeling peaceful? That's not it. It's not about comfort. It's not about my comfort level. It's about something deeper. This gift, glow. It's about an awareness, as someone just said to me as I walked in, awareness of being in God's presence. An awareness of not being alone. I'm serene because I'm not this little twerp walking around who's subject to every stimulus that comes along. No. And that makes me serene. So I can be serene and really uncomfortable. I can be serene and feel like I want to jump right out of my skin. That's new to me because I have my own expectations. I expect to have a certain zone of comfort, at least whatever. And that's not it. I think a fruit of serenity is light. I think that somehow light comes off us. I think that's what it's about. I think we really do become some illumination to the little world around us to the extent that we accept the gift. So that's about what I'll say. For me, serenity is that soft smile, which is sometimes on my face, sometimes not. I'll open the floor to shares. Know that those who come up will be recorded. And because of the size of the room, let's start by standing. If that gets uncomfortable and you prefer to sit, just sit. So, come up.
Thanks, Al.
I'm John H. I'm a recovering sexaholic. Serenity, as I was bringing it up, I find that an inner calm of some type, where I'm not all flustered, that it kind of comes, it's a gift, as he said. But I find what destroys it for me is when I'm resentful, when I want to make things all go my way. It just destroys it. I'm just not in control. And one of the biggest things, I think, is fear. For me, fear of not knowing what the consequences are. And as a result, lying, covering it up. And it's only recently that I've really kind of got into that the fear is really what petrifies me. It'll make me lie right away. Did you do that? Of course not. And the person can't tell. I remember one fellow that he asked me a question and I said no. And he knew later on, about 5 years later, I told him, remember he asked me that question? He says, yeah. He says, I lied. I said, I know you did. I thought I was, scamming him. But it was that if I had told him the truth at that point, things would have happened that might have shortened a lot of the grin and bearing it and the problems and things that followed from that lie. So really, somehow, for me, as I can be more honest and open with myself, and they have that section, how do we get sober, honest, open, and willing? And if I follow those things, it does happen. And then it's my job. Can I accept it as it happened in the previous? Do I accept that? And part of me wants to say, I deserve, that was talking before. What destroys serenity is the fact that I think that I'm bad. And whether I'm sick and I need to get well. And as I suppose it's all the jargon that we were taught, that was so negative, that you're evil if you do this and this. And it just kind of bludgeoned us. It brainwashed us. And we have to have to come to an inner serenity where we accept these things different. And also realize that this recovery is a process. If someone doesn't come in today and tomorrow say, I'm fully covered. No. If I spent 27 years acting out with women and everything, trying to get them to love me, in a wrong way, it's going to take one day and I'm going to all of a sudden love everybody rightly? I don't think so. So I think that if you're a sponsor and thing, that has to be taken into account, that you don't crush the person and they're destroyed. That they gently let them come in and realize that this is a process and that inner health comes to us. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Dimitri, sexaholic from Chicago. Just want to check in. Not quite as present as I would like to be without this. This is my first meeting here at this conference. Good to be here. I'm powerless over lust, acted out by binge masturbation, sexual with pornography, objectify women, cross boundaries, especially with unavailable women, sadomasochism, exhibitionism, voyeurism, fetishism. By God's grace and membership in SA, grateful to be sober since December 20th, 2005. This is a great subject, even though, like Al said, it's very hard to put words to it. Not too long ago, I lost my serenity and could not figure out why. I paint pictures on weekends. It's a great outlet for me, and it helps me to stay sober. I painted a female portrait, fully clothed. There was nothing inappropriate in it, and actually people commented on it. It looked good, and something was off. Something was wrong. For days after that, I was really disturbed. Went to my therapist and was saying to him, something is bothering me, and I can't figure it out. We arrived at pride and ego and things like that, all kinds of defects. And I tried to paint another one and struggled again, even though it came out well. On the following day, my friend John, actually, who's here, came over, and I said, do you see anything lustful in this portrait? And he said, no, but if I stared at it for a long time, I probably would start lusting. And I just had this wave of sadness come over me. I spent 8-10 hours creating this thing, and here's another sexaholic coming and saying, yeah. And then I remembered that I touched myself while painting it. it seemed like while I was trying to deny and be dishonest with myself and not to admit that I was lusting, my left hand just went to touch myself, and I stopped that. But when I recalled that, it was a scary moment. It's very sad. It comes out well. I have this whole plan, a whole series of paintings, but I have to give it up. I cannot handle it. And I know I will not ever have the serenity if I continue doing these things. So it's a recent struggle for me. I need to accept I cannot do those portraits. And because I value my serenity, the measure of my success in the program was that I felt that something was off. And I'm learning, like Hal, while speaking, to put words to it. And I'm grateful I'm here. Thanks.
Just a reminder, which we all know, that there are a whole bunch of people in the room, so we'll keep our sharings short.
I'm Fred. I'm a sexaholic. I achieve serenity by sharing and by putting out what's really going on with me. And I often go to meetings not feeling very well when I arrive, and when I really put out the garbage that's inside of me, or whatever it is, and make a connection, I feel serene when I leave. And it's also true of these conferences. This is the fourth one I've been to, and I have found that if I don't share, I don't get anything out of the conference, or not so much. So if I share in the beginning and then develop the theme through the couple days, it's sort of like summer camp. You know, you come and you get up in the morning and do your exercises and go to these meetings. My acting out was with men, and I stopped really before the AIDS crisis. But I did a lot of self-destructive things, and I have a progressive condition. I was an abused kid, quite seriously sexually abused, and my father and mother were really fine people, but something went awry, and my father spoke to me contemptuously. And, you know, I've done a tremendous amount of work on this in my life in so many different ways, and the program has literally saved my life. I had 5 years of sobriety in this program, and then I lost it, and I just came right back and got into my program, and I have just celebrated 11 years. And what I found is that 11 years, it's still one day at a time for me, very much so. And one of the things I did is I realized that I'm married to a wonderful woman, and we have 3 beautiful, fabulous daughters. And I was realizing that she spent an awful lot of time with her focus on the daughters and on everything else. And I said to her about 3 weeks ago, you know, I really don't want to live in a marriage where we don't have a rich, intimate life. And I want you to touch me, not sexually, but when you go by, I need to have you touch me, and I need to have that. And to her credit, she responded, and it's been wonderful. Nevertheless, I have been visited by lust, fantasies. They always come to me intensely around a full moon, and it's a full moon. I always talk about this, my full moon issues. In the airport today, I was lusting after men. And normally when that happens, if I get to know someone, that breaks the spell. For example, in my health club, I go and I work out, and if I can become buddies with someone, it just vanishes. But I always have to see that I do that. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm not responsible for the temptations, but I am responsible for what I do with those temptations. And I am a broken person. And thank you for helping me be whole. Thank you.
I'm Sam. I'm a sexaholic from California. And it's good to see Dimitri from Chicago. Do you remember me? I can't see him. But no, Serenity is in a hurricane. In the middle of the hurricane, there's a place called, I don't know what it's called, but in the middle of the hurricane, there's the eye of the, well, they call it the eye of the storm, I guess. And and they can take an airplane and fly straight through the hurricane into the middle of the hurricane, into the eye of the storm, and all it is air pushing up just enough so they can turn that motor off on the plane, and it'll just sit there in one spot, and it'll just go with the hurricane real slowly wherever the hurricane moves. And sexaholism, lust, is very much a turbulent hurricane. Serenity makes me think of this lake by my house. They call it Spring Lake. When there's no wind, the surface of the water is perfectly like a mirror, perfectly clear. You see exactly the mountains in a mirror image on the other end. And then some bird will come and make a big splash, some duck, and it'll make ripples, and that won't be serene. And so Serenity is about, right now, it's not about a static point in time or a destination, but it's a journey. I believe that with all my heart. I don't have serenity. I do have serenity during this hour. Last hour, I didn't have serenity. I didn't share with anyone or anything or anyone. And I was hot under the collar, and my ears were hot, and I'm assuming they were red. And I didn't know why I was bothered, and I said hello to someone after the last session I was in, and I shook his hand, and I said, "Is it hot in here, or am I just seething with resentment?" He said, "I don't know," and he kind of didn't want to talk about that, but I didn't understand, other than being jealous of other people that were making other people laugh. I didn't have anything that I was jealous at, so that must have been the only thing. But it passed. I went outside, I got a breath of fresh air, took a drink of water, put some water on my face, and they talk about this too shall pass. And someone told me earlier today that we can pray longer than we can lust. And so 20 minutes is about time enough for me to let it pass for me, whatever it is. It's taking my serenity away. If I just hold on to the Lord during that 20 minutes, or maybe it'll be 40, maybe it'll be a whole day, maybe it'll be a month sometimes. But if I hold on to, maybe it won't be a month. Maybe it'll be less than a day every day for the rest of my life. Maybe it'll be something that I get a hold on and control of. But serenity is another thing I just wanted to say about it was that it's the ebb and flow of everyday life. We need to be not serene at times so that we can appreciate when we are serene. And I'm 30, and I try to make up for lost time. I spent 24 years of my sexaholism. So I feel now that I stopped last Sunday and I have a week of sobriety that I need to catch up for the last 20, 30 years. And so I go nuts just trying to catch up to where I think I should be. But when I do that, I negate what I currently am, or the state I'm currently in, and I'm not serene, and that's not where I'm supposed to be, and that's not what I'm supposed to do. So thanks for letting me share, and just remember that thing about the airplane in the middle of a storm, in a hurricane. They'll turn it off. They want you put forth no effort whatsoever, you'll be serene. That goes against everything we know, but it works for me. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Sam.
My name's Mitch. I'm a sexaholic. For me, it always goes back to the steps, working the steps, and I love the theme of this conference: happy and joyous freedom. We absolutely insist on enjoying life, and I mean, my acting out and my lusting, there was certainly joy in that. It certainly wasn't serene joy, though. It was ecstatic, heart palpitating kind of joy that always came with a lot of suffering as well, and a lot of hurting of others and myself. But as a result of working the steps, I find more of what I think I would call serenity. It's about having integrity, peace. I like the slight smile, and that's what about. And for me, the addiction was about wanting to feel ecstatically joyful all the time, 100% of the time, forever, no suffering allowed. And today I realize that in recovery, happy and joyous freedom I could otherwise never know, that suffering happens, but I can still get through it with integrity and peace. One of the things I still struggle with a lot, my last thing before I become perfect is dealing with pride and I still get the arguments that go through my head. I want you so to agree with me on things, especially things that I feel are important and that I'm right about, of course. And when you don't, even on the slightest nuance of it, I can struggle and I can get the old court battle going through my head. So one thing I did to help me with that, I got inspired to do an embellished version of the Serenity Prayer and the long form of the Serenity Prayer, and goes like this. And I forget it, I'll still try to be serene here, but it's God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to live and let live, to let go and let God, to let others be true to themselves without my control or judgment, the courage to change the things I can, the courage to be true to myself, but only in God's love, will, and grace, and the wisdom to know the difference, the wisdom to accept, to embrace, and to participate in God's love, will, and grace as expressed through my brothers and sisters, the wisdom to reject self-deception and negative thinking, and the wisdom of knowledge of God's love, will, and grace for me, and the power to carry that out. Living today, enjoying the moment, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace, taking as God did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that God would make things right if I do His will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with God forever in the next. Amen. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Steve Z from Milwaukee. I'm a sexaholic. Hi. My experience tells me that serenity is the byproduct of doing the will of my higher power. On a practical level, serenity helps me in my 10th step to see my character defects and my modus operandi, how I react to certain situations in ways that aren't recovery. It helps me with honesty. On a practical level, to maintain serenity, I need to look about 6 times a day at my 3rd step. I need to ask, am I doing what God's will is? Do I have the right attitude? And the more I do that and the better I get at it, the more serene I become. But to me, it's a byproduct. It's not something that I could directly go after. It just happened when I decided to work my program. That's all I got.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, I'm Greg B., grateful recovering sexaholic from Nashville, and I want this to be the greatest speech of the conference right now. I want you all to go around and tell everybody how great it was, because I'm nervous. I've been to a bunch of these I've never shared at a conference before, so but I thought, darn it, I'm going to do it. Now, what's the topic? Okay, Serenity. Anyway, I definitely think for me, it's kind of like the promises, and all the stuff. When I work the steps, I get serenity. And I think it was someone who told me that sobriety and serenity are not achieved, they're received. And for me, that's true. It's just a feeling that that I get. For me, my struggle is that some stuff will happen, and I really want to be like, Serenity, man, just come on, chill out. And that's a self-will character defect. I'm just trying to jam Serenity down my throat, and it's like the Seinfeld. It's like, in Serenity now, insanity later, when I try to will it, just like I try to will whatever. And I do think I love that. It's a byproduct of doing God's will. But I just lost my train of thought. See, that's why I didn't want to share. I want to do it perfect. Darn it. Serenity. Okay, so... working the steps and really doing a fourth step. If I haven't done my fourth step, and I want serenity, I'm doing these things that make me insane, over and over again, carrying these resentments and these, defeating character defects that, I've set into motion because I'm living in my character defects, and so very hard to feel serenity. Also, give an addict money and in their disease, it's very hard to feel serenity. I had a couple of years of sobriety. I see a lot of people from LA where I used to live, and it's so cool to see people travel so far for their recovery. It's amazing. So I made money, and I wasn't sober. And man, I've never felt worse. And it really has nothing to do with money. It also has nothing to do with being in my relationship and being comfortably married, because I got divorced. And when I was married, I thought, oh man, I got the perfect thing here, the house, I'm married, and it just wasn't there. But when I'm comfortable in my own skin and I'm connected to God, doing God's will, even though stuff will happen, like my father passed away and it was very sad, but I'm like, I love what someone shared earlier, that, I'm not alone and that God's with me and that, someone will be there to care for me. And that is the best feeling in the world. I think that creates serenity. Also seeing all the people here come into town for this conference and people taking care of themselves and, and the sexaholism, rising out of the shame, all that stuff is creating more serenity in my life. So not that I'm creating it. None of those things are things that I'm doing. And they're actually things, it really is realizing what I'm not in control of, accepting that, and then I can move on and I can do the next right thing, involve God, know that God's got my back, and I'll be, restored to sanity. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, but I'm not sure if I'll remember because I'm not a good public speaker. What was it? Do you remember? No? Okay. Well, then I'm done, and I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Dave, recovering sexaholic, grateful recovery sexaholic. I'm from Cincinnati. I'm going to pretend you're the people I always talk to on Monday nights and not a bunch of strangers. Serenity for me, it can be a complicated thing. It can be a very simple thing first. I can think of serenity as just laying out on a beach in the warm sand with the sun shining on my face. It's easy to have serenity then, and no one's bothering you. It's tougher when life doesn't go the way I want it to go. How do I have serenity then? And that's what this program has taught me. When I kind of snuck into this lust thing and really started acting out a lot, probably just over 4 or 5 years ago. And, I did a lot of computer stuff, and I eventually had an affair that almost wrecked my marriage. And it was so easy to get into the lust. It was just, after a hard day, it was always my excuse. I'm just going to sit on the computer here just to relax, just to kind of wind down. And 2 or 3 hours later, I was ready to go home. And it's just that I just didn't think very much of myself. For most of my life, that's been my problem. I mean, I've always thought of myself as someone who didn't need friends, someone who didn't need all the God stuff. I could always do it on my own. Yet inside of me, I was really not that way at all. I was really kind of a lost person. And that's the trick today. The program has taught me that, wow, I can have serenity in any kind of a day I have. It doesn't have to be a good day. But if I have a willingness just to kind of, I don't know, just kind of accept the stuff going around me. I like the idea of the hurricane. I mean, you have this raging stuff around you, and you're in the eye, and everything is nice and calm. I don't have to participate in all the winds and the stuff going around me. And that's serenity for me today. I'm a bit of an exercise addict, And if I get injured and I can't do my workouts, I can get really upset. I can get depressed and I don't feel good. And hey, that's not serenity. But if I can be maybe injured and just accept, all right, I can't do that right now. I can do maybe something else. If my wife says something to me, I do something kind of jerkish, which is easy to do. And my wife makes some comment at me. I don't have to take it to heart. I don't have to say, all right, I upset her. Now I don't have to run off and be mad or resentful. I can just step back and say, hey, all right, I accept what I said. I take responsibility for it and just chill out. So that's about all I got. Thanks.
I'm David, a sexaholic from Blacksburg, Virginia. One of the greatest things about SA is that I get to play the philosopher king every once in a while. And that character defect alone, as long as I acknowledge it, probably won't kill me. But Serenity for me, if you'll bear with me, is a little abstract. If you kind of close your eyes and imagine a country garden with a pond in the middle of it, nice still pond, maybe it's reflecting the blue sky above and the trees, and maybe there's a nice wooden bridge, over the pond, and standing on that bridge maybe is a little boy, and he has a rock. And when he tosses that rock into the pond never overreacts, or it makes a splash. Water comes up, ripples go out, and the pond returns to calm. The pond doesn't overreact. It doesn't splash every drop of water out of the pond, soak the boy, knock over the statue, and destroy the bridge. And it doesn't deny that a rock hit the pond and use all of its will to resist any appearance of ripples on the surface. It reacts appropriately to what comes at it. And for me, Serenity has been learning to be that pond, not the overreacting pond, the underreacting pond, or the rock or the boy, which I spend a lot of time being the rock in other people's pond. So that's the journey from addiction to recovery to Serenity is learning to be that pond. So that's
Bernadette, sexaholic. Hi. For me, it's been kind of countercultural to be serene lately, and I've been finding myself having to explain why I'm not going crazy like I usually do. For example, my son ran away this week. He's 17. He decided he wanted to live with this pot-bellied pig that his girlfriend gave him, and we finally said no. We never say no to him, and he split. And I'm not that upset. I mean, I'm praying, and we're trying to find him. My other son came with me because he's never seen Nashville, and he's a musician, and he decides to learn as we get to the airport last night that he doesn't have his license. Somehow we got him on the plane. I still can't believe that he was allowed. And I did stay calm. He's 21. I said, I'm leaving without you if you can't get on, but he did. And also to let go of the shame that when we did travel together, we're good traveling partners. It was for me to act out. I used to take him to San Francisco using the excuse that this old boyfriend I had a son his age. And for 3 years I traveled with him, and he had no clue. He enjoyed himself, and it's crazy. I can't believe that looking back, now we're traveling, and it's a travel of love and commitment and a relationship that I'm trying to gain back from him. Unfortunately, he's not in S-Anon. He should be, but he can still learn from seeing me change, and I love him very much. Thank you.
Hi, Mark. I'm a sex addict. I have a confession to make. I'm actually not with SA. I'm with SAA, but where I am in Wilmington, North Carolina, there's not an SA group, so that's my only excuse. But that's part of the Serenity, right? Is to find out that we're all this fellowship of people all on the same path, and I'm glad to be here. I've been on this journey now for about a year and a half. I'm fairly new to it all, kind of a newcomer. But as I hear the various comments here about
Serenity, I realized that, even in the relatively short time I've been in this program, I have experienced Serenity many times. This last year was the toughest year of my life. It was the year that I completely surrendered to all of this. Part of it because, in a way, I had to. I was away from my family for 3 months in very awful circumstances, and could have lost them. Could have lost my job. Many things had gone wrong in my life, but instead found myself in a situation that I thought I would never be in, and that was all thanks to my higher power, and realized that I had been blessed with much grace through all of this. And my comment is, as I listen to the news or I listen to people talk about 2008, they're all saying, good riddance 2008, can't wait to get, this year done. People might be talking either from a political or financial perspective or whatever the state of our world is in right now. But as I look at 2008 and how difficult it was for me, I actually look back on it with fondness. I look back on it realizing that I am in a place that I never ever thought that I would be, and that for me that's serenity. It is, when everyone else is talking about how awful something is, and for me it has been exactly the opposite. I have discovered a new happiness and a new freedom, and that's all part of the promises. And I have found God doing things for me that I never thought, or that I couldn't do by myself, and that I never thought were possible. And that's all part of serenity for me. Thanks for letting me share.
Brief, right? I don't know if I can do brief. I'm Mark. I'm from Pensacola. I'm a sexaholic. Serenity. When I came into the program, my serenity was definitely serenity now, and that was me trying to gain control. Serenity is a good thing in life, because when I was standing outside, one of my fellow members from my group's wife told me I look like Mr. Rogers, and I didn't have to get upset about that. Because of the sweater. My biggest understanding of serenity actually comes from a movie called Matrix, and it happened when I was on a Delta airplane, and I was being very saintly on this trip with my family, and I was showing them what a great person I was in calmness. In the inside, I was a little upset, and an episode happened, and there was a lot of turmoil. And when I was sitting there thinking about, actually my first thought of serenity was to not actually kill some people, so that by not killing them, I was being somewhat serene. And then that thought came to me about the Matrix, and what it was is these guys could go into this computer world, and the world didn't affect them. And that's what serenity for me is. When all these darts and bullets and stuff are coming at me, they just go by me. I'm dodging them. And that's God's power in my life. It's changed me. I don't have to. In the beginning, He didn't believe, and the steps and the traditions, I didn't believe them. And in the beginning, I was getting beat up, and everything was beating me up, and I couldn't handle life. But as they're coming into my life, and my life is changing, I can do this, and they can't hit me anymore. Serenity is when a woman approaches me and says something that is not good, that I would normally lose my serenity about. I can say, I'm sorry, I don't go there, and I don't appreciate that comment, and I don't want to go with what you're saying. That's serenity. I can say that now. I don't have to be upset anymore. And the biggest thing in serenity happened this week when my grandchildren were visiting. I was at home. I was on my day off, and I had the opportunity to stay home and not go with the crazy grandchildren that are really noisy and annoying. And if they hear this tape, I didn't say that. And or I could go to them shopping, where I knew it was going to be a bad thing from my experience with my children. And I chose to go with my grandchildren to be with them. And the rest of my day was serene, because I made the choice to do the right thing, to do something for others, to think about them, to think about being with them. And when I do that, when I'm doing things for other people, when I'm living that life, then I can be serene the rest of the day. If I had stayed home and did what I thought would make me serene by staying home and doing all those great things that I needed quiet time with, my rest of my day would have been bad because I would have known I'd done wrong that day, and I didn't do what God wanted me to do. And with that, I'll quit. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Daryl, a grateful recovering lust addict from Nashville. Welcome. For me, serenity is something I've never had until I started 12-step programs. I always thought I had serenity, but what I had was just a temporary slice that I guess it was a gift from God, but they were very temporary, very fleeting, and never day to day. But for me today, serenity is not having fear of the unknown. When I was younger, I used to have tremendous fear of dying, of Armageddon, of losing my job, of what people thought about me, what people said about me. I've spent my entire conscious life in fear. And as my acting out progressed, it just became worse and worse. And today, for me, serenity is having no fear that I have to turn off the computer within seconds or minimize the screen because my wife might find me doing something or find me on a website I shouldn't be. I don't have to worry about my kids finding pubic hair on the keyboard. I don't have to worry that my kids are going to see pornography on my computer. And I used to spend so much time covering my tracks. I don't have to worry about taking an AIDS test. I have no fear of Armageddon. I'm apprehensive about the future. I'm apprehensive about what's going on in the country, and if you listen too much to the news, you'd be absolutely convinced we're going to have an economic collapse. Well, we may. But I have come to the realization through God that there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And there's nothing anybody else in this room can do about it. That's just the way it is. So for me, serenity is accepting that. It doesn't mean that I have to like it, but I am accepting of it. And I've never been accepting of my circumstances before, which is, I guess that's really the insanity part, is that I have no pronounced influence over anybody else except maybe my immediate family. And even that's limited, as my wife would attest. But I certainly don't have any sway over anybody else that I don't know. I don't have sway over politicians. Certainly not other people in other countries, other cities, other states, even other people in this room. But the fact that I can accept that just gives me a tremendous amount of serenity and peace. And to me, if that's all I got out of this program, I'd have to say mission accomplished. Not having lust 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year is pretty good too. But the real gift is serenity, and I'm happy to be around other people and provide service, and that's just been the greatest part of this program. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm a grateful recovering sexaholic. Just over 9 years ago, I came to SA, and I was in Hurt City. I'd been doing some really terrible things. I'd been living that double life that so many of us know far too well. I'd been trying to keep all the lies straight. I'd been doing things that put my life at risk. And when my wife left me over all of that, I suddenly came to this screeching realization of how bad my life had been, how terrible the things were that I had been doing. And I went through several months of hard withdrawal, crying jags and emotional swings back and forth, inability to sleep at night, the same things that drug addicts talk about in coming off of their drugs. And then it was about 4 months into recovery living there in a big empty house with my wife gone and life just absolutely in the dregs and my career at zero with no income at all. And I was sitting on the back porch one morning, and I realized that for the previous week I hadn't hurt. And I woke up and thought and realized that I had hurt all my life until that week. And it was that gift of sobriety and recovery that gave me that. And Al, I really appreciated in your comment that serenity is a gift. It's something that comes to us. It's not something that I could seek. And over this last 6 months, I've been losing it again. I in a time when the economy is supposed to be so bad, I've been so busy over the last 6 months, so overscheduled that I was on travel 16 out of 20 weeks and spending very little time at home. And when I was home, I was desperately trying to prepare for the next trip, getting absolutely nothing done. And my life had focused down to, what am I doing tomorrow? I couldn't even think about next week. I couldn't even look ahead that far to figure out what I was doing next week. This was just over this last 6 months. And I finally came up on this last scheduled trip in mid-December. I was so tired. I really didn't want to go on one more trip, but I had to. And went on one more trip and came back from it and then breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, that period is done. I can deal with the scheduling for 2009 in a more sane way and not accept the things that are going to overschedule me that way. And over the last several weeks, I've been regaining that serenity. And on top of that same time period, this was a time period when my father had another heart problem at 88 years old and is now in an assisted living facility. And his second wife, very difficult woman, has been extremely hard to deal with in these issues, and she's not treating him as well as I believe she should, and it's and all of this came to this boiling point this last week when she blew up at me over the phone and was screaming at me over the phone. But because I had been surrendered again over this last month, I just sat there on the phone and accepted what she had to say and spoke calmly back to her and let it go. What's the difference between this? For me, the difference is, through these last 6 months, I've been trying to control things. I've been desperately trying to do what needed to be done for the next day, for the next week, get things just perfect so that I could do the job right. And over this last month, I've let go of that again. And I'm trusting in God, as I understand Him, to handle the world and the life around me the way He can, which is a whole lot better than I can handle it. And I get the gift back. And it's just beginning to come back again now. But this contrast of my control versus relinquishing it to God, to me, makes all the difference. Thanks.
Watching the clock, we'll have time for these two, and then we'll close the meeting.
I'm Doug, and I'm a recovering sexaholic. I came into this program a little over 9 years ago, incredibly broken, incredibly desperate, and as a result, jumped with both feet into the program. And it was interesting, about a year and a half into the program, it was during the month of January, as a matter of fact, that 2 or 3 days went by, and I suddenly realized there was an incredible calm about the world around me. And I began to realize that was what serenity must be. And the first thing I did was to talk to my sponsor and my therapist about it. And I realized that there was nothing I could do to hang on to it. In fact, if I made any effort to continue to be serene, I would lose it. Because there was nothing that I had done to bring it about directly. It was a gift. Back to our opening speaker. It truly was a gift. Well, that's come to be known in my recovery years as my January periods. I have periods of January, serenity, that come and they go. But it's interesting, too, that as I look back on that first one, it came a year and a half into the program when I was about halfway through. And I began to see a connection between where I am in my program and the gift that I receive. I live today working my program, not seeking serenity, but simply working my program. And some days I get the gift. Thanks.
I'm Neil, I'm a sex addict from PA, and suddenly I have no serenity. A little nervous here, but this has been a good meeting for me with all the talk of serenity. I've had the chance to kind of reflect about my own life lately and the struggles that I've had. I've been struggling a great deal with sobriety, with achieving any sobriety, and my addiction has been a major challenge for me lately. It's brought about a lot of lack of serenity. And I was kind of thinking about my niece. She's 5 years old, and whenever she starts to misbehave and do something that she's not allowed to do, she'll persist in that sometimes. She's stubborn until finally you kind of have to bring the hand down on her if you really want some results. You have to really discipline her. And whenever you bring about a severe enough punishment for that crime that she's committed, she starts to bawl and cry. But then she just kind of accepts her punishment and sits there, very peacefully. Then I think of like the teenager, the rebellious teenager who you can punish all you want, and he just keeps on rebelling against the punishment and goes out and just does the same thing over and over again. And to contrast those two situations, I mean, the 5-year-old is serene in accepting her punishment. And so I was just kind of thinking about that because I feel chastised just over and over and over again because I continue to lose my sobriety, and with that comes a real lack of serenity. And I realize that's to me, I'm being disciplined as a result of this. Like we talked about in another meeting. I mean, I know I'm sick. It's not necessarily that I'm a bad person. Nonetheless, I'm making bad choices, and I have a price to pay for that. And I guess sitting here today with very little sobriety, and which has been the same old story for the last couple months, after having basically a year of sobriety before that, I've been very humbled. And I just feel that today I need to accept my punishment and not continue to try to be the rebellious one. And I can do that through one of the tools I have is this program allows me to confess my sins to one another. And this is something that I really need to do because I continue to just crawl into my shell and just allow that denial to continue. And this is an opportunity. I didn't know if I wanted to share. I want to do more listening during this convention than speaking, of course. But I want to try to have the courage to be able to speak up and be real with my fellows here in this program, because I need to learn how to do that, and feel like that can really help me with my serenity. And so thanks for listening.
Anything that you have heard at the meeting is surely the opinion of the individual participants. The principles of SA are found in our 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. If you'll stand, we'll close with the Our Father. Whose Father? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
I thought you were going to share.
I almost did, but somebody else took my material. I was about to get up there and do it, but two guys basically covered what I was going to say. So I just wanted to thank you for your service.
My name's Ralph.